Hey everyone, John from Bike Fit Advisor. So the two most common complaints in a bike fit that I see are saddle discomfort and knee pain. And today we're going to be talking about knee pain, but this could just as easily apply to any other problem on the bike. Now when we're doing a bike fit, accurate measurements are kind of at the heart of what we base a lot of our decisions on. But I know a lot of people out there, you don't have the capability, obviously, to have super accurate measuring. Although there are some ways you can kind of do a DIY type of bike fit. And I have referenced this in the past where I do have a program for free on my website that shows you how to do a basic video bike fit on your own. But short of this, there's another way. There's something else that we can consider to kind of add some depth to our decision making for how we're going to make changes to our bike fit. And the way to do this is through what I call the secondary symptoms. Frequently clients come in and they'll have one main complaint. But things on the bike never happen in isolation. We are just way too connected on the bike. There are too many ways that one portion of our body can affect another portion. We call this regional interdependence, and it's very, very prevalent on the bike. And so there are ways that we can use these secondary symptoms or even tertiary symptoms, these smaller things that are going on to kind of help inform us about our major problem. So to get back to it, I want to illustrate this using knee pain. And there's just a couple things you have to understand about knee pain and usually how the cause of the knee pain is diagnosed. So there's a simple rule in bike fitting with knee pain. And it goes like this. It says that if you're having front of the knee pain, it means your saddle is too low and you need to raise it up. Or if you're having lateral knee pain or back of the knee pain, your saddle's too high and you need to lower it down. And this isn't untrue, it's just not true enough to completely rely on 100%. In a lot of situations, I'll have clients come in that are having front of the knee pain and their saddle isn't too low actually. Their saddle height is good, and on infrequent occasions it can even be a little bit on the high side. So what would cause this? How does this fit in? It comes down to how usually this is assessed. Usually on a bike fit, when we're talking about whether someone's saddle is too high or too low, what's looked at is how straight the rider's knee gets at the bottom of the pedal stroke. So we measure knee extension at the bottom of the pedal stroke of close to 6 o'clock. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's where the decision-making process stops, and that's all that's really looked at. But the problem is this is actually less than half of the story. The more important measurement that really ought to be assessed then after that is how flexed the knee gets or how bent it gets at the top of the pedal stroke. This is actually much more important to overall stress or health of the knee, because at the top of the pedal stroke, our knee is actually flexed maximally that it's going to be through the pedal stroke. And this is also where we begin to initiate the power phase. And so that's a lot of force that's being put through the tissues of the front of the knee. And this illustrates how someone can have a good knee extension and a seemingly normal saddle height, but still have knee pain. Because what can happen is you can have normal knee extension, but you can have too much knee flexion. And one of the more common ways this happens is when you have a crank length that is too long. Because we can get the right amount of extension on the bottom of the pedal stroke, but that longer crank comes up to the top of the pedal stroke and it forces us into more hip and knee flexion. Okay, so how does this help us understand how to use these secondary symptoms? Well, in this situation, a really common set of symptoms are obviously the person's coming in with knee pain. But what often also happens is they are coming in with saddle discomfort as well. And that saddle discomfort is often telling, especially when it's one-sided saddle discomfort, which is actually pretty common. Why does it occur? Well, when someone is flexing too much at the top of the pedal stroke, and it could be because the knee is being forced into too much flexion or the hip or both. And generally, we're going to be better at absorbing this motion on one side than the other. So essentially one side will have a little bit easier time flexing. The other side is going to have it's going to create more symptoms. And so our body it's really good at avoiding this excessive motion. And so often what happens is people get pushed off center from the saddle, and they also end up with some uneven movement where one hip is going to hike up and down just a little bit more to kind of relieve some of that hip and knee flexion. And in doing so, what we end up doing is bearing weight through one sit bone a little bit more. And so in these situations, I've had a number of clients where we have front of the knee pain and they're having some saddle discomfort on one side, and it can be sometimes subtle or sometimes can be very pronounced. And in these situations when we have shortened their crank and gotten them to a more manageable amount of hip and knee flexion, then they actually square up in the saddle and the saddle discomfort goes away, and they're not putting as much stress on the knee, and the knee symptoms decrease. But as I mentioned, this can just as easily apply to other symptoms. So another really common one, and this is just a real simple one as well, is when somebody has, again, they're having some knee pain, but they also have some foot symptoms, maybe something mild even, like some toe numbness. The numb toes might be an indication that the rider has their cleats misplaced. And misplaced cleats can put pressure or put force through the wrong part of the foot or through the toes, which can cause some uneven forces through the knee and create the knee pain as well. Now, it definitely takes some thinking and a little bit of reasoning, but we can definitely make use of these secondary symptoms to kind of inform us and help us figure out what's going on and causing that primary problem. So the next time you run into an issue on the bike, really kind of dig and ask yourself what other things are going on, and see if you can't use that to kind of help figure out where that original problem is coming from. Incidentally, this is something that I dedicate sections to in my paid programs. So for instance, I have a program right now on solving knee pain on the bike or solving saddle discomfort. And both of those programs have sections in them where we address the secondary and tertiary symptoms and how they kind of apply and what they might indicate for the primary, for the saddle discomfort or for the knee pain. So if you're interested in something like that, I have links down below to those programs, and they are a big reason why I'm able to just kind of continue putting these videos up and spending time doing this. So it really is it's a easy way to support me. So I appreciate everyone who has purchased those already. That's all I have for this one. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.